Hello there. Before we get into this, I want to give a big old thank you to everybody who's picked up a copy of my How to Draw book so far, especially if you've left any reviews for it online or tagged me in the art that you've been making with it, because all of that has been so dang cool to see. I do really quickly want to clear up some confusion, however, and let you all know that the book is in fact still available and is going to remain available worldwide indefinitely for as long as people want it. So if it's out of stock at your local bookstore at the moment, then no need to worry, because you can either ask them to order a copy in for you, or if you'd prefer to nab a physical copy or digital copy for yourself online, then all the links you need are in the description. Hello, hope you're doing well. It has been a minute, and that is because I have not been doing too well lately, which I think a few of you might have guessed from the fact that I haven't uploaded anything in about 2 or 3 months. I think I mentioned in my last updatey sketchbook session-y type video earlier this year that there is basically always something, whatever it might be, that will crop up in my offline life around about January time every single year. And sometimes it'll be a good thing, sometimes bad, but always unexpected. And whatever it is will typically prevent me from being able to work on videos for a little bit. And that was very much the case again this year, because I ended up going into 2024 dealing with a major case of burnout alongside some other offline events that had me in a bit of a state. But here's where the pattern changed a little bit, because this time around, that routine coincidence that I've almost become familiar with at this point, whereby something will always happen in January, ended up breaching containment and spilling out beyond the bounds of January, with many different somethings all happening one after another, non-stop. Basically, a lot of unexpected things have been happening in my offline life all year, to the point that I am only just now, in July, kind of finding my feet again and trying to get back into a good creative rhythm. And yeah, before jumping back into working on some of the bigger videos that I want to make, I wanted to make a quick little update and kind of catch you all up on what's been going on. No idea what I'm going to draw to go along with this, but whatever may be happening on screen right now, hopefully you're all sitting comfortably and feeling ready to have a nice little catch up and maybe get on with some creative bits and bobs of your own along with me. Now, first and foremost, I don't want to worry any of y'all, so please rest assured, the fact that I am finally feeling well enough to sit down and make this video in and of itself is a testament to the fact that I am feeling way better now than I have for the majority of this year, so it's all good, don't worry. But yeah. Like I say, I haven't really been able to upload much this year, and originally that began because I took some time off of my own accord to kind of, try to avoid the inevitable annual random happenstance that I had a feeling might be on the horizon. And that was nice. It was good to take some time off, play an inordinate amount of Baldur's Gate, just, take a nice little break. But little did I know that as soon as I tried to get back to work, everything would go a bit topsy-turvy, to the point that I ended up being kept away from my desk for a whole lot longer than I originally planned for. Now, before I get into anything else, I think the main through line that I need to mention first here is that for pretty much the entirety of 2024, there has been an international shortage of ADHD medication. For context, I have ADHD, and this is a medication that I need to take daily in order to be able to get through my days at anything more than a below baseline level of very basic functioning. Honestly, I could do a whole nother video about the ins and outs of what the reality of living with ADHD actually looks like, because there really are a lot of ways in which it gets misunderstood as a condition. But the long and short of it is that without my medication, it is extremely difficult for me to just exist, basically, let alone get anything done, including, basic self-care. But that's where my meds come in. Or at least that's where my meds should come in, if again it weren't for the international shortage that's been going on. The thing is though, instead of a complete supply shutdown, it's been more like my medication became really hard to find, but it would still be available every now and then in odd places very unpredictably, just kind of on and off. And in its own way, that has almost been worse. Because while I have been able to refill my prescription once or twice, what that's actually meant is that multiple times this year my body has reacclimatized to my meds only to suddenly be cut off from them again when I've been unable to refill my prescription. And if any of y'all are familiar with the nature of ADHD meds, although this might just be specific to the kind that I take, I'm not sure, but they are basically a microdose of a specific kind of meth that harmonizes with the old ADHD brain chemistry in a way that is very grounding and helps me to get through my day with the ability to actually do things. But although it is medically very helpful, the primary ingredient is still technically meth, so when you suddenly stop taking this medication, which by the way the label says you should not suddenly stop doing, you crash real hard. In my case, it takes me a couple of weeks at a time to fully bounce back from the withdrawal effects of suddenly not taking my meds anymore. Even if I accidentally miss a dose for 1 day at a time, for example, I can always tell because I will get absolutely knocked out from how exhausted both my brain and body suddenly become. And during that recovery period, not only am I so tired I can barely move, but all of my ADHD symptoms and a myriad of other things that I have going on with my mental health feel so much more intense, to the point that it is completely debilitating. As I'm sat here making this video, I have thankfully finally been able to refill my prescription again after another one of those exact kinds of very debilitating withdrawal periods, but I have no way of knowing if I'm actually going to be able to refill it again at the end of this month like I need to, or if it's just going to be completely unavailable again. So right now I'm just trying to reap the benefits of being back on my meds while I can, before I potentially have to go back to desperately trying to self-medicate by drinking more coffee per day than I ever have in my life, which, it's sometimes effective and sometimes it knocks me out as much as the withdrawal that I'm trying to counteract, so a little bit hit and miss, but you work with what you've got. Anyway, that's one of the things that I've been dealing with up until now, but the other, I would potentially say even bigger reason that I have been creatively and functionally incapacitated for most of the year so far is one that I'm pretty sure I did mention over on my community tab a while ago, but I can't remember how much detail I went into. The short version is that I have been stuck coordinating a bunch of home repairs for the better part of about 4 months. The long version of that, though, is that I have been coordinating a bunch of home repairs for the better part of 4 months because we discovered that our flat had a really bad mold problem that, by the looks of it, had been going on for a while because it had kind of been hidden behind a bunch of stuff, and by the time it became bad enough for us to actually notice it, it had already blackened whole patches of the walls and contaminated most of our furniture and probably affected my immune system too, given the fact that one of the worst affected areas was right next to where I slept. But hey, if nothing else, that disgusting discovery did probably explain why I have inexplicably had the constitution of a sickly Victorian child for as many years as I care to remember. Anyway, needless to say, gross. I will be the first to admit that I've become a bit of a hypochondriac ever since lockdown, so that whole mold discovery, while very much overdue, and I am very, very glad that we did discover it so that we could sort it out, it was a bit of a waking nightmare because we weren't actually able to figure out the extent of the damage and get it seen to until quite a while after we discovered that something was amiss, because we got stuck in a really lengthy back and forth waiting game with the manager of our building, who ultimately wasn't able to help, but because we had to wait and see if they'd be able to help, we couldn't begin to get people in and treat it professionally for a hot minute. So I had to spend a handful of months doing my best to clean up what I could, all while feeling like it was not safe to sleep or even breathe in my room, which is where I do all of my work. So obviously not very conducive to getting stuff done. I will say though, and obviously I can laugh about it now because it is thankfully all fixed now, it's fine, knock on wood, but there was one point amid all of the stress of trying to get this whole mold problem seen to, which at the time was very frustrating, but now I can look back at it and be like, God, sometimes life really does imitate a sitcom, doesn't it? Our building manager did at one point send like a damp inspector to kind of take a gander at everything and see if there was anything that they could do to help out. And I kind of opened the door for him, said, "Oh hey, you must be here about the very evident condensation problem that's been causing all of this mold." And he said, "Yep." And he came in and he took a look around, pointed a doohickey at the wall, all that kind of thing. And then he turned around to me and he said, "Yeah, what you have here is a condensation problem that's causing a lot of mold." So, super helpful, really appreciated waiting for the expert opinion on that one. But again, I laugh now, but having to get that whole problem sorted out has been really stressful because not only was it really scary to conduct home repairs during a period of time where I couldn't even work to make up the cost because all of my equipment had to be packed away in boxes, but basically it meant that for the past 4 months straight, I've pretty much just spent all day every day like deep cleaning all of our walls and windows with mold spray and moving furniture around and climbing over boxes of non-contaminated stuff that I had to pack away in order to make room for people to come and take away the contaminated stuff, and trying to arrange for professionals to come and properly mold-proof the place and repaint the walls that got damaged and try to find replacements for the stuff that did get damaged, and all of that juggling of multiple very brain power intensive tasks and to-do lists and calendars and coordination were things that I had to sort out while actively yo-yoing on and off of my ADHD medication and having what was honestly a real bad time with some of the withdrawal effects. Not least of all because while my lack of meds was indeed knocking me out, I didn't even have a bed to crash in because my bed frame had to be taken away to the skip very early on and I wasn't able to get a replacement for a very long time. But yeah, point being, if nothing else, maybe take this as a bit of a PSA and learn from my mistakes. Please remember to check up on your walls and windows every now and then and keep your soft furnishings well away from your windows because they might get gross. Anyway, alongside the international med shortage and horrendous mold problem, if you can even believe there was more stuff to deal with on top of both of those things, besides those two kind of real prolonged components of me having been a bit indisposed this year, there have also been a handful of other things that popped up along the way. Everything from a completely different matter that led to a whole nother back and forth between me and my building manager, to a plug socket bursting open the literal day after I thought all of these repairs were finally over and done with, and a bunch of other stuff in between. But the other kind of big factor that I guess is not yet over and done with, and I don't know if it ever will be really, is that, like I say, I kind of came into this year already dealing with a big old case of burnout, but that burnout was something that actually came about hand in hand with some offline happenings in my personal life towards the end of last year. I won't bore you with the details, but the long and short of it is that those personal matters kind of unexpectedly dug up some memories that I didn't even remember burying, but by golly, they all came rushing back real hard in the form of a very bad panic attack, and since then, especially during the first couple of months of this year, I kept being kind of blindsided by moments where I felt like I was right back in those buried memories and like reliving some really rough experiences. All while, again, yo-yoing on and off of my ADHD medication, which I can safely say would not recommend when you're having a bit of a mentee bee. But all jokes aside, other than the aforementioned med situation and home repair endeavour, I've also ended up this year having to take a bit of time to take care of my well-being in another way that's been very long overdue, namely by talking to a therapist about some stuff in my past that, I don't know if it's too late in the video for a content warning, but basically I've been coming to terms with and unpacking and processing some pretty bad abuse that I went through a while ago. Which I realise is a bit of a heavy word to drop in the middle of a sketchbook session like this, so I do genuinely apologise for the heavy topic jump scare there, but in all honesty, I was very close to not mentioning this at all in this video, and unexpectedly, even trying to record this, I don't know if I'll probably need to edit it out. It took me a couple of tries to even say it. And while I am editing it, I'm probably going to be pretty torn as to whether I ought to just cut this part out or leave it in. But the reason that I did want to even briefly mention anything to do with that whole revelation that I've been unpacking lately is because it is heavy. So much so that I am still, even after having been seeing them for quite a few months now, I'm still working with my therapist to get to a point where I feel like I am allowed to talk about it, whether because it feels like it's too serious a topic or because I don't feel like abuse is a word that I have a right to use to describe my experiences because of this, that, or the other. I mean, hell, you can probably already tell that I'm trying to dance around the word even now, because it just feels weird. It feels uncomfortable. Trying to say it gives me a lump in my throat because it's something that my entire nervous system has been rejecting and avoiding for a very long time. And it turns out that unpacking those kind of things that give you a lump in your throat, enough for it to stop giving you a lump in your throat, is also a process that takes a very long time. However, that whole heavy old topic and chapter of my backstory, so to speak, it is something that I want to kind of work my way up to properly talking about at length at some point, because part of the reason that I ended up burying all of that baggage in the first place is because at the time I couldn't find any examples of people talking about the specific kind of stuff I was going through and calling it what it was. And I really want to try and contribute something to making it feel like it's not quite so heavy to talk about. But for now, that's a bit of a lofty goal, but yeah, it feels awkward to say, but thank you all for letting me ramble about that for a moment, because even just briefly acknowledging it in a bit more of a casual, comfy context like this feels like a big baby step towards that goal of talking about it properly, if that makes sense. But yeah, all that to say, it's been a busy old year. And having said all that, I do really hope that this video doesn't come off purely as 10 minutes of me just complaining or like venting, because I didn't want that to be the point of this. And ultimately, although all of these things have been a big old headache to try and deal with, a lot of them have actually come with silver linings. Like having to deal with the mold problem meant that I also had to completely rearrange my workstation, and now I have a lot more space to spread my equipment out and do various kinds of work rather than just being scrunched up in a corner like I had been before. And so far, the new setup has been really helpful for ADHD proofing my day-to-day routine, which is hopefully going to make things at least a little bit easier if I ever run out of my medication again. And on top of that, although this is probably evident given that I am making this video right now, But having all of those repairs done and knowing that my home is clean again and taking the time to take care of my mental health and, at least for now, finally being medicated again has really got me feeling for the first time in a very long time like I have enough mental energy to be able to work on videos again. And while I'm on the topic of videos and stuff that I want to do, I am going to be doing my best to not get ahead of myself and like churn out videos at lightning speed now that I'm back to rights, because I don't want to accidentally push myself too far and get knocked right back into burnout, especially because I am going to be trying to balance my time between video work and freelance work for the next while, so I definitely don't want to overdo it while I'm figuring out my kind of freelancing schedule. But I do know that the next video I want to work on is going to be a big one. It may or may not be a follow-up to my video from a while ago covering my theories about a certain game. At this point in time, I am about halfway done with writing that one, but I keep having to add to it because new updates keep coming out, so it's kind of a never-ending cycle of like, oh, I've done this section, oh, there's another character to talk about. It's definitely going to take a while, but I am really looking forward to putting it together, because, man, this year has been insane, evidently, but God, it's just really nice to be feeling that familiar kind of creative adrenaline rush again. I really missed it. But yeah, on that very happy note, I think that's just about everything that I wanted to catch you all up on for today. So, thank you all very, very much, not only for stopping by today, but also for your immense patience while I was absent and all of the very kind comments that I came back to. There was a lot of really sweet stuff left on a lot of my videos while I was away, and I really appreciate that. And here's hoping that you can look forward to all of the stuff that's on the way here on the channel, even if it might take a little while to come out because the next one's going to be quite big, and I want to make sure that I figure out a good work-life balance as I go. But for now anyway, I hope you will all keep on staying as safe, happy, and healthy as you possibly can, and I promise I'll be doing my best to do the same.